Hey there, stress heads. Are you tired of feeling like your brain is betraying your body with all the sneaky types of stresses out there? Well, today we are going to talk about one in particular that your body often misses, but can really wear you down over time. Now you're curious about it, aren't you? So let's get started. Did you know some of the stressors are silent and they compound as you talk about some changes in any plans? You feel them again when you open an unclear email asking about the project status, or when your boss changes the deadline and makes things a little complicated. There's a name for all these stress slinging sleeper agents, and they are called as micro stressors or allostatic load. Allostatic load is accumulation of tiny triggers we encounter in routine everyday interactions. These moments are often so brief that we hardly ever notice them. But when they pile up, they are a large toll on our well-being. And the problem is that our brains don't register them as stresses at all. And when the floodgates are open, this is going to be a serious problem, as we know as chronic stress. Interestingly, many searchers have picked one form of chronic stress that can be particularly indigenous and what we know as social evaluation threat. This is when you feel like you're being judged or evaluated negatively by others. Like when you're on your first date or trying to impress your boss, it's a kind of stress that can really get you under your skin, even if your brain doesn't notice it, as always. To understand how these small stressors slip by, look at how our mind typically processes stress. Our cognitive system responds to pressure with a process called allostasis, which senses threats to our well-being and fires off the flight or flight response to disarm them. But because microstressors are fleeting, they pass under the radar. These microstressors literally don't imprint on our frontal lobe in the same way as it builds in our system. We are left with a feeling of overwhelm that we can't find a cause for, the one that can fast track us to burnout. When we notice them in detail, microstressors come in three common forms. 1. Capacity draining microstressors, which hold us back from getting things done. A good example is that you get an email late in the day asking for something a little vague. You have to go through each thread of those emails to remind yourself of what you need. You might have to explain to the email to other people. Suddenly, what looks like a relatively small request can potentially ruin your evening, and maybe for other people's you tap too. Next is emotional depleting microstressors wear on your energy. Say you're feeling harried about a meeting in the morning and you have an impatient interaction with your partner before you walk out the door. The moment of guilt you feel sticks with you as a stressor. Moments might also manifest you if you are a manager who cares about your team. You will wonder if you are supporting them enough through the tense deadline or advocating for them when it counts. And finally, the identity challenging microstressors. These are the least detectable triggers, separating us from what we want to act on. Over time, these makes you feel like you're not the same person anymore. Like a salesman who liked talking to their clients but has a boss who is pushing them to make more aggressive calls or probably sales. This wasn't their style and the calls took a toll on their own life. Moments of dissonance between what you're asked to do and who you are to act as a microstressors. But we are not stress warriors. There are some strategies you can use to fight back against social evaluating threats. One of the best ways is to build up your social support network when you have people in your life who love and accept you for whom you are. You are less likely to worry about being judged by strangers. And let's be real, nothing beats a good laugh with your favorite people and to make you forget your worries. Another strategy is to refrain from negative self-talk. Instead of talking about yourself that you are going to mess up the big presentation or trip and fall in front of your crush, try reminding yourself that nobody is perfect and it's not your imperfections can actually be endearing. Plus, making mistakes is a part of learning and growing as a person. And hey, if all else fail, just laugh it off and move on. Give the magic ratio of 5:1 by following the Gottman's ratio a chance. This means that for every negative interactions during a conflict, a stable and a happy relationships have 5 positive interactions. That means For every negative interactions you have in a conflict, you have to make it up by doing 5 positive reinforcement or positive interactions to stabilize the conversation. Finally, it's worth noting that social evaluate threat isn't only the sneaky form of stress out there. Other types of stress can contribute to allostatic load, including financial strains, job insecurity, and even discrimination. So, it's possible to be mindful of your stress levels and taking steps to manage them whenever possible. So that's it for today's stress bursting tips. Remember, allostatic load may be a mouthful, but a little humor and a lot of support can keep chronic stress and getting the best out of you. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stress bursting content.